real quick for my audience, maybe you can just tell them, who are you? Who the heck are you, man?
I'll take the whole show up. No. Short story, man. Just a lucky guy. Been around, been in 4 industries and oil and gas, payments. I've been building businesses since I was 27. I didn't know I was building a business at 27, but that's the way it ended up. And, I think had a really cool platform, had a lot of really good bosses and mentors, and have been fortunate enough just to look at life as a bit of a business, as a bit of a game. And for the most part, just been a corporate warrior, man.
Love it. Where are you from?
Louisiana.
Well, Southern
Lake
Louisiana.
Charles.
Where?
South Louisiana, Lake Charles.
Lake Charles.
Yeah. A little refinery town near Texas border.
Man, so what did that look like? How'd you guys get down there?
Well, I think my family, Italian family, dad was from, I think, Madisonville, which was near New Orleans. And then my mother's family was Sicilian guy born on the boat coming from Sicily.
Wow.
And landed in Louisiana. Big Italian population in Louisiana, Catholics, the whole deal.
Yeah. Good stuff. I've been to Sicily. I've been to Palermo.
Yeah.
That's about all I've been to over there. I've been to Spain as well. Mediterranean's beautiful here. So I'm going to jump right into it, man. I've done some background research on you. I've talked to you before. Obviously I know you. People know about your brother. What are you trying to accomplish right now in terms of transitioning from the energy industry to being, it seems like you're really working to be a thought leader and are a thought leader in the Bitcoin industry, the crypto industry. What's this all about, man?
Well, when I got out of college, I had a marketing economics background, and I was fortunate enough, I just happened into the natural gas business.
Okay.
And a year later, this is in the 80s, a year later, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, a 4-letter agency, for I think it was Reagan's office, was going through the entire energy complex saying, hey, look, you guys have a monster monopoly position. It's basically an oligopoly. You've made a return on all these assets of about 20% a year for centuries. It is time to open the market up. And so what has got me very, very interested in crypto, the transition for me is really, really easy. Now, I haven't been in the energy space for probably 20 years, but I went from energy after spending 25 years in it and then went into payments. And I saw the problems with payments, all the problems with payments the energy companies had. And the energy companies today have none. The way electricity and natural gas are priced has none of the issues that the entire payment rails have. So spend 25 years in energy, helped about 50 to 100 men with attitudes kind of like mine, went into the energy markets. We were all outsiders. And we said, you know what? You guys cannot do this. You cannot create a highly competitive model because you've never done that. It's going to require free market specialists like us. We went in, reformed the rules with the regulators in the United States, Canada, and Europe. And you have markets that have no friction whatsoever. They work perfectly, and they work on a 30-day market. There's no long-term 30-year contracts with blue chip credit, and DuPont didn't have to take out a bond. And literally, Exxon says, I want to go drill for oil or natural gas, and I'm going to take the chance on the market being there in the future. There's not this, I'll guarantee you a 20% return. So now we have, what do we have? In 25 years, we have created the most dense energy country in the world through technology and logistics and an interconnectability that only occurs if you're a free market player. If you're a monopoly player, you can't serve the whole market. You're serving one contract. So this is exactly why Bitcoin, I am so certain Bitcoin will have its day. Because if we could do this to natural gas and electricity, which defines whether you're a first, second, or third world nation, nobody needs a credit card and nobody needs Bitcoin.
So
really,
let me...
Right? You follow my point?
No, completely. Here's what really intrigues me about your experience. You're referring to around about 1987, Ronald Reagan. He kind of deregulates everything. He introduces that. I'm kind of curious, what sort of effects on the industry as a whole did you see to happen then? And then what do you expect to see with the crypto industry now as we enter a period of regulation? Like, what's that look like?
Well, first off, it's been since, as you said, 1987. I spoke to my mentor, who is now the chairman of the board of Williams Energy Company,
biggest in the world,
biggest energy company in the United States for certain.
Yeah.
And they move all this product around. They refine it, they clean it, they ship it. They've got a trading operation. He told me, he said, Gary, we just bought a business for $25 million that had been, the question he was answering was this question. Hey, Steve, when we were doing this, he was 28, I was 27, a bunch of 30-year-olds, okay? This is who changes industries. It's the 30-year-olds, 22-year-olds, okay? Who, by the way, we had no, what's the word? Fascination, romantic interlude with the old energy space.
Yeah.
We were like, dude, we just got here, right? We just showed up. You guys have been in these country clubs for 20 years. Hell, we don't even like golf. And that's the way most of these industries are built, right? They're built to pretend to be competitors who's really a big club, and Joe Consumer's paying for it,
yeah.
Right? So the question I asked him was, hey, we grossly underestimated the opportunity. We built a $30 billion company, dude, in 7 years. Okay, in the 80s. That was real money back then. And restructured the way 4 continents play with their energy. What is happening now? Have the oil companies finally got it? And he told me, he said, dude, we bought a company for $25 million that had never made money. And the next year we made $250 million in cash. So what that tells me is that if the company has the right culture, like Williams, they will survive that transition. Williams been around forever. What did they do? They appointed a CEO that was in his 30s. I know the guy. He's a very, very good guy. They then went and hired a guy like Steve, who then would hire guys like me, and understand that this is going to become a puzzle, right? Whether it's payments or Bitcoin or banking or ETFs, this is now becoming integrated in the system. Once you shine a flashlight into a oligopolistic market where supply and demand are not speaking to each other because there is intervention.
Yep.
They're intervening, right? Whether Visa's intervening or they're treating their buddies better than they're treating competitors, or Amazon gets so big that almost Walmart can't compete with them.
Right.
Well, if Walmart can't compete with them, what about the other 10 million small merchants that can't compete with them, right? So I think what we're seeing is we will see a replication of what happened in energy, and it'll be very profound. And all of the opaque areas in markets that should be open and public. I mean, most of these companies are very large public entities, yet we can't find a lot of clear information. That doesn't happen in an open market. So when we shine that little tiny pin light called Bitcoin into some of these spaces, it's going to start showing. It's going to highlight where all the margins are that aren't deserved to be made. I'm cool with margins, but you can't charge me 30 cents on the dollar just for sitting there. Google, and we might not even be, they might ban this show, but you send me $100, dude, they're going to take $33.
Right.
That would be a federal offense if Visa did that. Visa would charge me 3%, and I think they're criminals.
Yeah.
So Google's just taking 30. It's like, dude, that's not open access, okay?
Right. So this is important. I want to kind of get into this for a second. So you said that you go to school, you come out, you're working for an energy company. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct. Pipeline company,
okay.
Yep.
Pipeline company. And then did you say this other guy was working for you, that you two created a company together?
No, I joined a company.
Okay.
That would be my first introduction to the oil business, and my job in that pipeline company was to fill an empty 36-inch wide pipe that ran from Laredo, Texas, to Houston. So just for people having a frame, because most people don't understand, they turn their TV on, they turn the kettle on, they turn the bathtub on. Well, there's pipelines running all over the place, man, monsters. Someone has to fill those.
Right.
Whether it's liquid or natural gas or crude oil. My job was to fill 2 billion cubic feet a day up, okay? and do it with these big complex contracts, 30-year contracts where the price escalates. All of that went away within a year or two with this market change.
And
then
that's
you
because
you would create a spot market. Okay, and the oil companies, you asked, hey, what was the impact of this?
Yeah.
We had 43,000 oil and gas producers, went to about 18,000 immediately. Okay, so you immediately consolidate because the inefficient players don't make it. Then now it's about 600 oil and gas producers. Okay, so it gets smaller. It throws a lot of, it freaks a lot of players out. But guess what happened? We might have lost some oil companies, but we have lower energy prices. Interesting.
That is interesting. So there's two things I want to take from that. The first thing is you kind of mentioned that this is the way that the oil and gas company had been doing business for so long, right?
The industry, yeah.
The industry. And then you come along, and maybe one of the competitive advantages that you had was you were so young and you had a completely different perspective on things. And you talked about culture a second ago. So, how did you kind of bucking the status quo at that company translate to you moving towards this company that you created? It was a $30 billion company. How does that all tie together and play into everything?
Well, I think sometimes people don't ask the right questions.
Okay.
And I'm not saying you don't. Like
generally speaking.
Yeah. In my case, I had to understand what I was good at and what I was not good at and not interested in.
Okay.
I also had to know, I had to be aware that something didn't look correct to me. If you were buying 2 billion cubic feet a day, surely you want to buy it in the cheapest manner possible, right?
Sure.
Yet I went to my boss and said, how much do we pay for this? I got this pipeline right here, and there's Conoco just drilled a well right next door to it. What are we going to pay him? And he's like, well, we're going to pay him $7.36, Gary. Like, why? Why wouldn't we pay him $7.16? He said, dude, we don't mess around with pennies and nickels.
Oh, there's that margin.
I was 22 years old, dude. I said,
yeah,
2 billion cubic feet a day times a nickel.
Yeah.
This was 6 months into the job. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. I never forgot that because the only thing I learned other than how to chase girls in college was supply and demand are the only thing that really matter.
Right.
Supply and demand, if they are allowed to speak to each other and they are not muffled, Economics 101 guy didn't tell me that part, but when supply exceeds demand, prices fall. And when demand exceeds supply, prices rise. Period. Maxim. God's rule. And when you don't have that, dude, when the price is $7.36 and it keeps going up, no matter how much supply there is, this is fucked up. This can't continue. This is an artificial market.
Middlemen screw things up, screw markets up.
Well,
sometimes.
This middleman spent $1 billion putting a straw in the ground.
Yeah. And
he wanted to make sure that he had a return because he's having to report to his shareholders that his return is better than the other guy's return that the shareholder had an opportunity to invest in. So it becomes a very big club, and all you're doing is comparing one against another. Okay? They're all using McKinsey, dude, and they're all using the same metrics. Hey, we have to pay $7.36. We have to pay $7.36. Don't you understand? This is more expensive. Well, today, in 10 years, I haven't heard the word dry hole in 10 years. There are no dry holes, dude. So why would you think you could continue making assured guaranteed margins? I don't want anyone to be guaranteed a margin. If you guarantee a margin, you guarantee inefficiency. If you make each other compete with each other on the margin, the market's very healthy.
So let me ask you this. What happens to an industry when it is busted up? A lot of people say that's a bad thing, but as evidence would show over the past, the decades here, it's actually made a lot of things better, it seems. Do you think that'll be the same way with cryptocurrency as power might centralize and it gets busted up? It's just going to make it better in the long run? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure that the digital asset industry gets busted up. I don't think there's anything to bust. I think it's all getting ready to be grown.
How do you feel about what happens to an industry when it is busted up? A lot of people say that's a bad thing, but as evidence would show over the past, the decades here, it's actually made a lot of things better, it seems. Do you think that'll be the same way with cryptocurrency as power might centralize and it gets busted up? It's just going to make it better in the long run? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure that the digital asset industry gets busted up. I don't think there's anything to bust. I think it's all getting ready to be grown.
How do you feel about traditional finance getting involved with this? I guess that's where I'm going with that.
That is a great question, dude. One of the reasons I really like the crypto side of this versus Bitcoin, and I really differentiate these two worlds. There's Bitcoin and there's everything else.
Yeah,
and I love all these 20,000 tokens for one reason. It is going to completely confuse the legacy guys. Hey, who should we do a deal with? Solana? Ethereum? They're going to waste 18 months, 2 years, dude. Announce partner deals. Visa's going to do this. That guy's going to do this. They have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
None of them do.
Do you think they've felt that way for many years now with regards to digital assets, just not understanding?
Well, so look, you have an issue here, okay? Like if you're king of Visa and MasterCard, and they are effectively one company.
Sure.
Last thing you want to do is let go of your 45 and 51% gross operating margins.
Right.
Can't do that, dude. As soon as that happens, your price on your shares are gonna like Visa and MasterCard. That whole industry has paid a lot of money for nothing. Okay, there's $7 trillion in fees, just in fees and fines and little charges. So they're handling their game very, very well. They have figured out how to manage the regulator and pay fines and stay in the game.
Sure.
Now, you've introduced Bitcoin, which sadly, Bitcoin does not have a marketing and PR department or centralized one. So they kept talking about how many transactions Visa and MasterCard do versus the 5 that Bitcoin do, instead of saying, hey, Visa and MasterCard are not settlement systems. You're comparing settlement to transaction.
Sure.
And Bitcoin is the most liquid settlement system 24/7 in the world. And Visa MasterCard owns 72% of the credit card market, and none of those transactions clear or settle for 180 days, period. Not one of them. 180 days, dude. Now, this has just been pitched poorly, okay? The way to break into these markets has not been done well. It is now being done well, okay? We're hiring lobbyists now. We're getting organized. We're communicating to the politicians with this message. This is 3 to 4 million jobs. This is not about breaking the Fed up. Hey, let me do business with you, man. Let me poke you in the eyeballs 13 times. I'm going to steal your monopoly from you, and let's do a partnership. This has been the Bitcoin message. Instead of, there's a lot of inefficiencies. It is clear to me we are digitizing planet Earth. And in order to digitize planet Earth, what does that mean? We become a rental economy. And we're not going to use legacy money or any legacy construct thought process to manage the future of how you and I live together. These tools are inefficient to manage trillions and quadrillions of transactions, dude.
Which is why it's really cool to have a market, because the market is millions and millions of collective decisions that take the place of the centralized planning in whatever it is, whatever industry. So that's important. That's powerful. So let's ask this. Does traditional finance see this digital asset age as an existential threat to them doing business? And are they taking any sort of steps to try to mitigate that? Do they want to control it? Like, what's that look like? Any insight from anybody you talk to or yourself?
Yeah, so this goes back to your last question, really about, hey, how are they going to respond?
Yeah.
Look, culturally, it doesn't really matter what they do. Culturally, they can't make this move. They just can't make it. Guy like me will have a job till the day I die, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it'll be the day before. I have too much experience, and I'm not trying to say, hey, Visa, you're going to lose your game. Sooner or later, everyone loses their controlling position, especially when it becomes too controlling. Visa, MasterCard, and legacy players like fossil fuel companies, machine equipment companies, the ADMs of the world, they must be looking at MicroStrategy and NVIDIA going, hey, what the fuck just happened, dude? NVIDIA makes equipment. and they are now making $28 billion a quarter. Okay, this is a game changer. They're multiple 75. Okay, something is happening, and the board has to be waking up going, whoa, dude, we have COVID. We have relocation issues. We've had to figure out how to work remotely. The world is not now going to globalize.
Sure.
See, the COVID thing fucked up the whole globalization deal. Now that isn't happening. You blow up a dam, a couple of pipelines, you start a war, you start another war, and people start to get irritated. You then sanction 2 or 3 countries, boats, planes, villas, and money, credit card access, banking access. And now we're all sitting around going, oh, wow, can you believe they're going to farm mica, and they're going to farm bricks, and they're going to farm another? Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Mm-hmm. Okay, you stop their banking capability. This isn't the first or second time. This is 3 times in 30 years you've done this shit to countries. Sure. So embargoes and this kind of behavior does not work in the future world. The United States is 5% of the world's total population. We consume 25% of all the energy on this planet, and we're making the rules up for everyone. That doesn't work in a fractured, deglobalizing marketplace.
Well, deglobalizing and technological solutions come to the marketplace, which you can't control those, and people, the market's going to gravitate towards those, especially if you're a country who's getting beat up, who's getting bullied. You don't have to take that anymore, right?
That's right.
So one thing that I also wanted to kind of ask you about here. What's the public perception of, in the crypto world, the perception of big companies, oil and gas companies, large corporations, Visa, MasterCard, is that these people are stupid. They don't know better than me. They don't know better than the crypto bro. They don't understand. My perception is these companies have unlimited resources, have the ability to research and understand things at levels that no regular one person could. These companies pass down knowledge for decades and decades and decades, or hundreds of years, and they get better and better and better. And it's almost like you're fighting a Leviathan that you could actually never really beat at the ground level. So I know, watching some of your interviews and researching, I know that you probably look at this industry and you shake your head with the amount of experience and wisdom that you have, and say, you guys just don't know what type of game that you're playing right now. So how do you see yourself maybe educating folks about what the game really is, to give them that dose of reality? Is that your role? Is that something that you bring to the table by being involved in this movement?
I'll take whatever role, I guess, that I can be the most effective at. But I think that my job is not to educate the legacy players how to do this. I mean, they should have hired me like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I have cost some large companies a lot of money.
Okay.
Just by being there. Okay. But the truth is, had they collaborated, the first time I did this in England by myself, I offered the host company to come. I said, look, let me write a white paper for you. They owned a monopoly in the United Kingdom. It was British Gas. And I said, how would you guys like to control the entire European energy landscape? Mm-hmm. And they're like, dude, that's a good idea. Let me write you a white paper. It was the best piece of work I've ever done. It never saw 1 day of oxygen. They threw it in the trash can. And the basic premise was, hey, guys, you need to shit all over the UK market. You need to take the price from 26 to 8, bury the market, choke your suppliers up with so much long-term energy, because I knew they were super long. Mm-hmm. They thought I was mad. Okay, they thought I was psychopath, dude. I said, they threw the paper away. I said, you understand this is now going to happen, but it's not going to happen because you did it.
You got somebody else, right?
And it's probably going to be me, because you ain't going to stop me from doing this. This is a beautiful white paper, dude. Well, the only thing that they lost $3 billion sterling, dude, the next year. Income. They made They made £3 billion the year before. They lost £2 billion, which is $3 billion at the time, and we made 120 million. See the leverage? I made 120 in 3 years. Cost them $3 billion. That's what the legacy player doesn't understand. There will be 30 of me. All I need to do is make a couple $1 million the first year. Mm-hmm. In fact, the guy asked me, the legacy player, this is how these people think, okay? I have this problem still today. I build these little companies from scratch, and then 200, 300, $500 million, $1 billion, I sell them. I go to these big companies, and they go, well, you don't have enough revenue. I said, well, I got $1.5 million, dude. Last year I had half. Now I've tripled, and then one day it's going to be 3, and then it'll be 6, and then it'll be 10. Yeah, but it's just not really, it's so slow, it's not significant. I said, yeah, but what if there's 30 of us?
Right.
If I make $1 million with 3 people, some other guy's going to go, shit, I'm smarter than Gary. Dude, I think there, in the chargeback company business I built, there must be 15 companies that copycatted what we did after. And there was at least 30 energy players that copied what Natural Gas Clearinghouse tried to do. And the ones that made it, all their cultures were non-legacy players, run by non-legacy players who had a bit of a boner against the legacy players. Their cultures, it would be like sending somebody from high school to the pros, and saying, competing there. And I'm saying Visa and MasterCard are the high school.
Yeah. So, with that said, let me ask you this.
Can I just interrupt you one other time?
Yes, you can.
So listen, in order to breach the Holy Grail, you have to be a certain character, right? There has to be more gold in that Holy Grail for you to keep scratching at. The guy that created the goal, he's just defending his position. Defending is not a winning position long term. Sooner or later, you got to attack, man. And if there's 10, 15, 30, the intellectual capital, my pitch to the legacy guys, hey, you laugh at Bitcoin? Too many smart cats like me walking into Bitcoin, dude, and spending 12, 15 hours a day and deploying their capital. You do not. Look at what Elon did to NASA. Just pour some intellectual capital on a problem, and we will come up with a better solution. Every time, man. I believe in humanity more than I believe in cartels and clubs and constructs that are made out of nothing, that are unfair, quite frankly, to the smaller guy. And that's really me. I would rather be known as Robin Hood for the small guy.
It doesn't feel like that's the culture, though, man.
It's not the culture.
It's not the culture at all. They're afraid to release or unleash that human potential on the world. And it's because there's control vectors everywhere. It feels like. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the scheme is to get people addicted. Look, if you look at the credit card industry, I asked a guy from Visa once, very senior guy, said, hey, what is the job of the consumer? What is his role as an actor in this matrix that you guys created over 50 or 60 years? Remember, this is 50 or 60 years.
Sure.
And for the Bitcoiners, everybody needs to remember, it took 50 years for Visa and MasterCard to get 7 credit cards in everybody's back pocket. Adoption is very hard, dude. Okay, adoption is extremely difficult on scale. So what Bitcoin's done in 15 years is staggeringly significant. The progress they have made in the manner in which they made it actually gets me so bullish, because you couldn't have done this in a poor way, possibly.
Yeah.
It's not been orchestrated in a controlled, strategic, hey, this is what we're going to do. The messaging's been wrong. We're going to take over all the payments.
Price go up. People like that too. That brings a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this kind of, I want to tie this in. I'm curious about your thoughts about this. The infrastructure is already in place in terms of energy. Bitcoin is running on its own. There are players players that have been around in Bitcoin for, 15 years now, some, most less, maybe like 10 years, these mining entities, etc. At what point are we going to see major moves from the energy industry to come and gobble up the digital asset industry? Because that just seems pretty natural, a natural progression.
Yeah. I think it'll be a long time before you see the American fossil fuel companies. This is why I'm really excited if we can get Trump in office. I've already told him, hey, look, I'll do 4 years. I'll work. Just tell me what you want me to do. Point me into a division. I'm happy to go spend 4 years trying to help. But this is the problem that the visas, the regulators, our politicians don't get, including the oil companies. And my message to Trump would be, hey, look, dude, this is not an American product, okay? You have to get your head out of your ass here. We're such a narcissistic country. It doesn't...
What's not an American product? What are you referring to?
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The digitization of planet Earth is happening with or without America's involvement. And the first fossil fuel companies that will make Bitcoin will be sovereigns. They will be Russia, Iraq, Iran, all the people we keep fucking with. They're going to make Bitcoin.
Why do you think that? Why will they be the first?
Because they're trapped. Every time they get access to a market, we blow pipeline up. So Europe just had access to the cheapest fossil fuel in the world, bro, from Russia. Okay, nobody tells that story.
No.
They were buying extremely cheap fuel. They're not now buying extremely cheap fuel. They're buying extremely expensive fuel from who? LNG produced LNG components from America.
So you saying they started buying that after the Nord Stream debacle?
Of course.
Yeah.
Debacle.
Because they couldn't freeze in the wintertime, right?
Yeah. Well, they were terrified, right? I mean, this thing blew up right before Christmas. I don't know who blew it up. I'm pretty sure it wasn't two Norwegian fishermen smoking
the United
a cigarette.
States, man. Everybody knows it's the United States.
Totally.
Through proxy.
Like I'm not even sure it was through proxy. That's terrifying.
I mean, Biden has let some stuff slip up that I was like, really? He said that? Can't believe it.
Dude, there's a dam in the Ukraine that was blown up, and it's destroyed decades of food that nobody's talking about. That hasn't hit the system yet.
I did hear about that. I heard about it.
We have 3 bridges that get hit. It's messing. Like we are. Talk about inflation, okay? Like I know we're jumping all over the place here, but all the inflation we've had for the last 3 years is politically driven. Supply-demand shocks, man. Dude, you're just shocking the shit out of the supply chains since COVID.
Well, are they doing that for political means to justify or to gain power? Like, why? Why are these things happening?
Why? I mean, political. I think they're trying to start a war. Okay, because if you did that to me, okay, imagine like, oh, we're going to blow some pipes up between Canada and California and put California in the dark, which would happen, by the way. What, is that an act of war? Or is that just peace, love, and kind of
It's an act of war.
It's an act of war, dude. So this is just a war game now. My point, though, is that the market's working. Everything the old school players do will be juxtaposed to the new world, which is the new world is going to be get along to go along. Because you're going to have you should have a hyper efficient and highly competitive digital environment where we can move around. Like I actually think in the next 4 to 6 years, dude, I'm going to have the ability to have a sovereign passport.
Yeah.
Right? That's virtual. Why shouldn't I? I should be able to have a virtual passport with, look, 2 sessions from now, 2 terms from now, I could build a case AI should be nearing the capacity to be our government.
You could make the case. I mean,
what do human beings do in government? They just are supposed to manage our constitutional agreements and our Bill of Rights, and they're not.
This is scary, man. This is scary to me. And AI ties into this whole conversation too, in a huge way, especially energy.
See, it's all correlated. You cannot, if you're going to AI, what is AI? My secretary that's going to be a robot is going to send you $3.32 in U.S. dollars.
Yeah.
No, dude.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Okay, they're going to send a digital.
I read a report recently. This is situational-awareness.ai, the website. And this is probably the most frightening document that I've ever read in my life. They talk about like a nuclear arms race, but it's going to be with AI, AGI. If China is starting to ramp up spending as a percentage of GDP up to 10 or 15 or 20% to fuel these AI farms in these cities, then the United States is going to be forced to do the same as well. You have OpenAI, which is, we know OpenAI, ChatGPT. You had the former director of the NSA just join their board about 2 weeks ago. There's some major things happening in the background with AI that's also going to tie into digital currency, but the industries that are going to be affected the most, man, are the energy industries. I mean, the amount of energy that it's going to take to push us into this kind of weird future in terms of AI is just tremendous. Have you talked to your friends about this in the energy industry, and maybe what are their thoughts about all that sort of thing?
Well, their thoughts are that we're going to have so much demand, and finally, the energy market's going to move and get paid a better multiple than the very companies that obtain multiples from buying the energy and then converting it to some digital product.
Yeah.
Whether it's Amazon or Facebook. My view is not so rosy for the energy players. I think we have an immense amount of energy. Dan Yergin, who became very famous in the 90s and 2000s, wrote 2 or 3 novels, monster pieces of work on peak oil. He must have made at least $100 million, okay? He was wrong, dude. So wrong. It's ridiculous. Peak oil 2000, peak oil 2010. Oil.
So when you say peak oil for the listeners, you're talking about the maximum amount of oil that it's just going to go down from that point on.
Correct. That basically there's an end of cheap oil, okay? Which, by the way, is different than peak oil. So that you just have... you're getting close to a point where all the $45 crude oil is done. You're not going to find anymore. I don't believe that.
Why don't you believe that?
Well, 23% of all the fossil fuel that we have found has nowhere to go right now. It sits behind the pipe. It's not in the market. It's leaking out of the gas. It's being flared, wasted away. It's highly inefficient the way we run our systems.
No scarcity right now.
There is gross, like you live in the United States. I can prove to you within 30 seconds, if you have enough, that energy is way too cheap in this country by asking one question.
Okay.
Yeah. Run a poll. Who closed and turned their laptop computer off last night?
Nobody.
No one, man. Well, it must be too cheap. If you're willing to leave a fucking... you would not leave your car running overnight, would you? No, you wouldn't, because you can, and it's not that significant a charge. You do, and therefore there's waste. To show you how significant that is, in England there's about 72 million homes. If every TV was pulled from source, so you can't just do the remote instant play.
Yep.
450 megawatt coal-fired power station comes off the grid, dude.
Wow.
One 450 megawatt coal-fired power station, disgusting, right?
Yeah.
Comes off the grid just so you and I can be wankers.
Yeah.
Because we can't wait 1 second for the for the shitty CNN news to come on.
So did you roll your eyes when you heard the FUD in terms of Bitcoin and digital currencies about using too much energy?
Oh, I didn't really roll my eyes. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to run that one. That's cool. See, I like them running those, though, because then you have a debate to do, which is
marketing.
That's not the real energy. Like what they're doing in Texas right now is not going to be forever.
What are they doing in Texas?
They're
mining?
They're load balancing in Texas,
oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I don't think, it's cool. There'll be some of that, but the real use for Bitcoin should be, and this is just economics. Why would you transport natural gas from Pennsylvania or Chicago all the way to Texas, pay $1.50 to get it there, to then do load balancing. Why wouldn't you just produce it in Wyoming and turn it into Bitcoin and not have any transport fees? If that makes sense, if you're Putin and you just had your pipes blown up, right? Why wouldn't you just mine Bitcoin in the Siberian tundra, turn it into Bitcoin, then move it wherever the fuck you want for whatever currency, and no one can ever say no, right? No one can ever say no. By the way, this is the same sovereign that already has crude oil on its balance sheet.
Okay.
And it drills crude oil and does not need to show a profit. See, it's very interesting. Sovereigns don't need to make money on their energy in order to make Bitcoin and in order to make that story work. Whereas an oil producer needs to make some money.
Right.
Right? Now, who's going to drive this home? This is hilarious, okay?
Yeah.
The game theory here that's working out for Bitcoin is just staggeringly interesting. Nuclear power stations, 25% of all the nukes in the United States are talking to AI and Bitcoin people right now.
Yes, they have to.
Why would that be important? And the reason is because nuclear power stations are actually a problem on the grid because they are baseload, dude. There is no turning off a power station. It's 1,000 megawatts on or off. And you can't keep it off forever. You have to
You can't store it, or you can't control that flow.
1,000 megawatts is popping out. It's not 900. It's 1,000, and you can't modulate it down. Okay, this is a nuclear power station. So the problem for them is they sell the cheapest energy to the grid, 3 cents a kilowatt. What if I went to a nuclear power station and said, "Hey, dude, I can get you 5.5 cents." Well, that sounds pretty cool.
Oh, via Bitcoin?
Of course, dude. I'm going to sell you an 80% load factor profile, Mr. Utility. And then I am going to divert either when you want or when I want, but I'm not selling you base load at 3 cents. If you can buy it cheaper than 5.5, you just tell me when to turn off and I'm a mine Bitcoin.
Okay, so
everybody wins, dude.
No, that's great. So are people doing that yet? Why aren't people doing that yet? Are they?
Like,
will be. Okay.
No, there is. Once you have this discussion, I remind everybody, in order to, the purpose of the meeting is to get to the second meeting. Some of this takes time. You got to find the right people inside these organizations. The more time we have in Bitcoin, with the more PR and the more good news, and hey, this is happening, and the area is cleaned up, the more you're going to start seeing people come up with very clever bond economic methodologies. Like, I could probably make a very good living just walking around the energy companies going, "Hey, man, look, that project right there, you ought to wrap some Bitcoin around." There's certain projects where it's stranded, okay? Like, literally the energy's just sitting there. So they're going to get there, man, because there's so much energy sitting behind pipe not doing anything.
Right.
And it will be the sovereigns or our nuclear power station that will do this.
So it can be nuclear, or it can be fossil fuel as well.
Well, it could be sun too.
Anything. Anything. But
the nuke, the sun and the wind and all that, it's bullshit energy, dude.
Why?
It's because it's inconsistent and it's not dense.
So when you hear and this is awesome for me because I don't know anything about energy. So you hear Elon say, "Yeah, we just got to take a corner out of Utah and put a solar farm down there." Yeah. What are your thoughts when you hear something like that?
Look, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know either. Yeah.
Shit, I don't know, dude. I have no idea what that does to the environment when you start putting mirrors back in.
Right.
I have no idea. But what I do believe is that energy prices will continue to come down just like every other product comes down over time.
Okay.
I think technology is going to allow us to get there. So solar is not going to ever make it if crude oil is at $100, $60, and natural gas is at $1.87. Dude. There's no room for them. What the green people should do, this is why I get so irritated with the Bitcoin community, because I'm like, dude, you could fuck this up if you really try. The greenies have made no progress whatsoever except noise. And the reason they made their noise is talking about how clever wind and solar are, and then they fail. Okay, and in order for wind and solar to work, they have to have subsidies.
And it's inefficient.
Why?
It's horrible.
Why?
Taxpayer
What
dollars.
you should have been doing is you should have been praying for war and supporting $300 crude oil.
Yeah.
And $5 natural gas so that you could compete without subsidy. If I'm the government, I'm like, I ain't getting shit for subsidy, dude. Either make it work or don't make it work. And you can't then blame the oil producers going, wow, you guys are actually being very efficient at $65. They make, look, that's $45 to $65 is break even for crude oil. And at $75, people are making a good margin. Keeping in mind, you hadn't heard about a dry hole in a long, long, long time.
Sure.
Your margins go down when your risk goes down, right? And your volumes go up. So there's no oil producers bitching about selling crude oil at $70. They're making
right.
$25, $30, man.
So what's this huge war on the energy industry in the United States and in the Western world? It seems like why do they want to shut this down? Is it really because they believe that this sort of energy is dirty and it's going to kill us all? Do they really believe that, or is there some
they the green peeps?
Well, the green peeps and the political representatives of those people, yeah.
The politicians know nothing, man. And all they're doing is that they're like a little bit like many of the companies that are large in this world who work on quarterly earnings. These people are working on 1 and 2 year voter surveys. If you're working on quarterly earnings, I don't know how you survive the future, dude. Because private companies will not have to have quarterly earnings. They will be looking at this digital new landscape going, oh my God, everything has to be rebuilt. Everything. Okay, like every tool that we've ever had to do all the legacy business, accounting, audits, tax, reporting, analytics, risk management, trading, reporting, third-party reviews, audits, quality of earnings, that all has to be done digital. Have you seen the Treasury Department came out with a 365-page tax ruling on digital assets? 365 pages. They had 2,000 comments. Mm-hmm. They are saying you have 5 or 6 major accounting firms going, hey, this digital asset thing, dude, you can't make us responsible for this.
Correct.
And they're like, what are you talking about? He said, well, right now we have 4 billion 1099s from legacy business, analog, U.S. dollar. Digital asset industry, when the Treasury Department requires reporting from broker-dealers, goes 12 billion additional. Okay, now, even if you don't like the numbers 4 billion to 12 billion, hey, that is a 300% increase in files.
Right.
Like that's a big lift, dude. Billions of farms. Triple the farms just to be able to do digital and report for it. No one's set up for this. They're set up on Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets. We're talking about trillions and trillions of transactions.
I'll tie this in real quick. Node 40. How does that play into all of this?
Yeah, Node 40, I invested, not only did I go heavy into Bitcoin and then a couple of other products, but I also bought 43% of Node 40, which when I got involved, I kind of switched their focus. They had some consumer business, and our focus has been basically to deal with this reporting, what I call the picks and the shovel, picks and shovels of every industry that's anywhere. That has to get built in digital. So Node 40 is one of those firms. It's got 26 computer science kids, two salespeople, and that's it. We're just building a solution to solve a problem that I know is there. Even if the legacy players haven't really completely confronted, oh shit, they're getting ready to. And this is just a part of being compliant, having reporting. That's the beauty behind digital, man. It can be perfect.
Well, so give the quick elevator pitch about what it is for the listeners. What is Node 40 exactly?
So, well, exactly. It's a full on. It's a CFO in a box, dude, for digital assets. Okay. So I'm a single family. I have an LLC, but I'm not a business. But for me, Node 40 is my digital CFO.
Okay.
And none of my lawyers or my accountants do anything with my account until Node 40 looks at it. Node 40 supplies my lawyers and any litigation I would ever have. Node 40 is my source of reality because my accounts zero out on digital. Okay, I have probably 6 years. See, I believe Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 million at some point.
Right.
If you agree with me, you need to treat it like it's worth $1 million. And the way you're treating it right now is like it's worth nothing because people are spending $100 on software saying they're going to keep crypto till they die, and they're never going to sell it. Well, you will sell it because you will die. 46% of us are going to get a divorce. Then there'll be a forced sale. So my challenge is if I think it's going to be worth $1 million, that then has alerted every IRS person, make sure that we get our piece. And two, I better be treating it like it's not a Volkswagen. I better be treating it like, hey man, every year I need to do a report. Every year I need to give my data to my accounting firm. And then the accounting firm needs to be able to understand what your crypto is without ever knowing anything about blockchain. So Node 40 is basically a translation device for any 78-year lawyer to look at your crypto position and go, shit, I understand that better than the other stuff.
Sure.
Right? Because it's perfect. It's clear. It tells a story. If I die tomorrow morning, my children get a letter. Here's the Node 40 data. This is everything you need to know about my crypto book since the beginning of time. Do not let my lawyers, your lawyers, an accountant, or any three-letter agency come and bully your ass and take it away from you.
So does this cater to Bitcoin and crypto at large?
We will be and are auditing smart contracts now. This is everything, dude. This is NFTs, smart contracts, staking, yielding, token. Larry Fink says he's going to tokenize real estate.
Yep.
You're not going to use the accounting firms you're using right now, dude.
Right.
And you're not going to use an Excel spreadsheet.
You heard the mix-up in the real estate industry, the ruling against the MLS. Have you heard about that?
Oh, on the agent fees?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. So
that's why I did what I did last night with Dennis Porter, support him on some of the lobby work. See, when I see the real estate...
What did you do?
I told him I'd match $50,000 if he got some people to donate some money.
Got it. Okay.
We were on a big space, and he came on. I said, dude, what you're doing... he's really getting some policy pushed through, yep. And he's learned how to talk to them now. He's had 8 years of mistakes, and now he knows, okay... This is
part of the game.
It's a skill, dude. To get these people, I'm spending a lot of time with politicians now.
Sure.
And people keep asking me why. It's like I can actually tell them what Bitcoin is without freaking them out.
Right. You can speak their language.
I can, man. I mean, I can sit down with I was with Anna Paluna Luna and then Vivek, and I'm like, how would you like to say there's 3 million jobs, dude? Mm-hmm. There's 3 million jobs. Oh, by the way, these 3 million jobs do not need college. Mm-hmm. That's a great story, dude.
And they don't go away?
And lifetime value. I mean, their careers, too. Their careers in high-paying jobs. 16-year-olds, 66-year-olds. I mean, if you want a job, dude, this industry is wide open for it. And no one's starting with a head start. All you got to do is put your head down and learn. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question, or did we get off track?
We got off track a little bit.
The point I was trying to make on the real estate guys, though, it doesn't really impact my digital position, but when I see this lobbying effort where, hey, these fees are too high, this is going to happen everywhere. It's very important that's happening, and we need to keep pushing. You know what? Those fees are too high, 6% to sell a bloody house. That is a very that will be the most difficult cartel to break up because there's so many pieces. See, it's a system where it's such a skanky business. Okay, no value add whatsoever, and then you just keep getting parasites in the value chain.
Yeah.
Title, $1,000 for a title.
Man, I mean, I learned a lot about real estate, I guess, from your brother, and I was in that quite a bit in 2016. And when I realized that I could just create my own contract and take it to the title company and then get a check, that blew my mind. It's common knowledge for a lot of people, but at that time it wasn't for me. And then that made me realize just how much people are getting raped and pillaged with that industry, in my opinion. So here's the deal, man. We are 57 minutes in. I think we've touched on quite a bit. This has been pretty data dense. That makes me happy here. I'm going to do something that I do with all my guests here, a little bit different. I've got, let's see here. I've got about 20 words, and I'm going to say the word, and you got 3 seconds to react.
Okay.
And you can react as short as you want or as long as you want. Okay? And it'd be good for shorts and things like that. So, all right. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. First thing, Bitcoin.
Money.
Elon Musk.
Pain.
OPEC.
Destruction.
Ethereum.
A child.
Donald Trump.
Power.
NFTs.
Overstated.
Donald Trump again. Anything different?
Good family.
Vladimir Putin.
Monster alpha man.
Solana.
Solana. Don't know what to say about Solana. Probably going to make me a shitload of money.
Renewable energy.
Joke.
Shale.
Made during the $10 to $30 crude oil market.
Carbon tax.
A fucking total scam. Fucking total shit show of a scam, okay? The
Mark
biggest
Zuckerberg.
fucking joke. The second biggest joke until we get to Zuckerberg, okay?
All
toxic, freaking toxic, and not a good thing for society.
Okay. Joe Biden.
Embarrassing for the United States.
Saudi Arabia.
Powerhouse.
ExxonMobil.
ExxonMobil, interesting. Not a top 10 energy player.
Got it. Crypto mining.
Inefficient and stupid.
Brandon Davis.
Brandon Davis, good looking guy, dude. Awesome.
You answered very smartly right there. I
good
just
looking. I like
good
the red
God
hair.
Almighty. All right,
got a nice voice. Shit,
guys, that's our interview. Gary, man, thank you. You did great, man. You shared a lot of knowledge. I think people are really going to like this, and I appreciate you coming on. So we'll go ahead and stop this now. And do you have anything you want to send people to a website or anything you wanted to talk about here?
No, I do spaces on Tuesdays, Mondays, and Thursdays. I do some live YouTube. I'm really here for entertaining education. It pisses me off that my education was so bad and everybody else's was, and I'm like, okay, quit bitching about it and actually do something. So here I am.
Well, dude, I do appreciate that about you because I've seen you from afar for a couple of years now, and you've really, really grown, man. You're putting a lot of work in to understand this, and that shows. So, keep it up, man. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll stop this, and thank you, guys.